Is the Dolce Gusto Esperta single-serve coffee machine worth adding to your own at-home coffee shop? Let's find out today on aromacup.com. Hi everyone, I'm Brian with aromacup.com. Thank you as always for joining me here in my virtual coffee shop brought to you by aromacup.com. Today we're talking about the Dolce Gusto Esperta single-serve coffee machine. It's a pretty straightforward machine when you really come right down to it. It looks kind of like a Keurig K-Cup machine, but it's not, and operates a little bit differently from a Keurig machine when it comes to single-serve. Let's dive in, talk about the features on the machine, what's in the box, and of course, brew some coffee with it. What comes in the box with the Dolce Gusto Esperta machine? Well, you get the machine itself, which is pretty compact and should fit on most countertops pretty easily. Might be really fitting for an office, I would say. You get a variety pack of pods. There's only 6 pods in here, so it's really not going to get you going too much, but this will let you decide what it is maybe that you like when it comes to Dolce Gusto pods. You also get this cleanup tray, and this is where you can dump your spent pods. You can also capture water from priming the machine in here, pull this out to empty your pods, clean the whole thing out. It's a little addition to the whole machine. And you get your manual, of course. Starting from the bottom of the machine and up, we'll talk about the features. Now on the bottom we have our tray. The tray is removable, and that's because we can take this tray and move it up into different locations in order to brew, let's say, into smaller mugs and things like that without getting splashing everywhere. Most folks are probably just going to leave it on the lowest setting when you really come right down to it. Moving up, we have our pod tray. Now the pod tray is accessed by pulling out the tray after popping up this locking handle. This is where we're going to place our Dolce Gusto pod. Very easy to brew. We're going to talk about brewing with Dolce Gusto pods in a few moments. The tray is also magnetized a little bit. You simply kind of put it back into its receptacle and it gets sucked to the back, which I think is kind of a cool little feature. And then we'll close this up by locking down that locking handle. Moving to the top of the machine, we're going to find our not only our power button, which is right here on the very top, and it's going to glow green when the machine is ready to brew, but we're also going to find our 2 brew buttons. In this case, we have a hot, should I say, and a cold brew button, because there are pods, Dolce Gusto pods, that are for making iced beverages, which is a cool option. And we have this small, clicky, rubberized scroll wheel. And this scroll wheel, it feels like the kind that you've seen and felt on a mouse. That's what I was thinking of, actually, is that it's a lot like the scroll wheel on a computer mouse. But in this case is for adjusting the amount of water that we're going to brew into our Dolce Gusto pod. It's real clicky, which is cool. It's rubberized, which is also cool. And it gives you this little indicator for how much water you're going to run into your pod. I said this about the other machines. I wish it did more, just because I like using it. So I wish it did more, but it doesn't, and that's okay. You're also going to notice that when I scroll this wheel up all the way to the top, I get this small little max fill cup. This tells me I'm going to brew as much water as possible into my pod. On the back, lest we forget, we have our water tank. Our water tank is a 60-ounce water tank. This is the biggest one that I've seen on the Dolce Gusto machines, so you're not going to be filling it up all the time, which is nice. You'll also find back here a very tiny, almost spring-looking little tool. This is the needle cleaning tool, and this is used for cleaning the brew needle in this machine if it ever starts to get stuck up with coffee grounds or something like that. It stores right there at the back of the machine. It's very small, so you're going to want to always place it back into the machine lest you lose it, which would be a real drag. That's the machine overall. Let's dive in and talk about brewing using the Esperta machine. Brewing with a Dolce Gusto machine is real easy to do, and that's because the pods are, of course, single-serve pods. They're made to simply set and brew, which is very cool. You can see that they look kind of like single-serve pods that we've seen with other machines, but they are unique. They have a different design. They have this outlet on the bottom. The top is covered by a foil cover. That cover gets punctured by the machine when it's time to start brewing. The pods aren't recyclable, and that's something I've been noting in our videos because I think a lot of folks are going to wonder about that. As far as I know, they're not recyclable. So if you're green about your coffee making, it might be a little hard to do with the Dolce Gusto machines, but that's a choice that you get to make for yourself, of course. Now, we're going to go ahead and brew with this machine. So I've placed a pod into my pod tray. I'm going to lock down my locking handle. I heard that puncture that capsule. Now I'm going to place my mug, and I'm also going to place my handy dandy thermometer because I want to see how hot this gets on the brew. Now, the pod that I'm making use of shows me with a little indicator on the side of the pod. It tells me how much water I should brew into the pod, and each of these is going to have its little indicator to let you know how much you should brew. In this case, it says to brew as much as I can, essentially, so I'm just going to move the dial all the way to the top, and then I'm going to start the brew process. I'm going to use the hot brew, of course. The machine starts brewing immediately, which I think is really cool. If it's heated up, it's ready to go. Another thing that's pretty cool is that on this little display on the top, these little lines are going to disappear as the machine makes its way through the brew process. So it's kind of cool, kind of futuristic, and lets you keep an eye on where things are as you're in the brew process. Now, Dolce Gusto pods come in different varieties. In the case of the variety pack that we got with this machine, there's a couple just basic coffee pods, but we also have an espresso pod, and that's my cappuccino pods that I have right here. Now this black one has a very small indicator on it. It shows me that I would be doing a espresso type of pull on this pod, so I'm not going to get a whole lot of coffee, just a very strong brew. And then I have a milk pod because this is white, and this is to make a cappuccino, obviously. This is going to allow me to make Nescafe's version of a cappuccino. If you are really picky about your cappuccino, you're going to want to bypass that milk pod because it's just powdered milk, and you're going to want to use some kind of at-home milk frothing option. But as you can see, there are these combination packs that you can get for the Dolce Gusto machine. I have my Chocochino pods right here, which will allow me to make a chocolate cappuccino essentially, which is kind of cool. So if you like a little bit of variety, you can get it with the Dolce Gusto pods because you can make coffees, you can make specialty drinks, you can make teas, and you can also make cold versions of a lot of those drinks. Just depends on what pods you get from Nescafe for your Dolce Gusto machine. And the machine has finished brewing, and we're looking at just about 180 degrees Fahrenheit on the mark. So 180 is not too bad, I would have to say. For a little machine like this, I've seen a lot of single serve machines come out way below that when you really come right down to it. So 180 degrees, not too bad. If you like a hot brew, I think you are going to get it with this machine. This coffee is maybe a little bit light. I have noticed that when you brew the largest setting on these machines, the coffee is going to come out a little bit weaker. That makes sense though, because you're letting more water flow through the grounds. Of course, it's going to be a little weaker. If you want to dial in exactly how much coffee you're going to make, of course, you can just use that dial and you can go all the way to the bottom if you want to make a very, very strong cup of coffee. Cleanup's real easy to do. You can just pop up that lever, take out your pod tray, dump that into your handy little receptacle that came with the machine, put your pod tray back, and continue to brew again. If you don't, the machine is going to turn itself off in 5 minutes. You can circumvent that power off option if you want, but that auto power off option is useful because of course it's going to keep your electricity bill down and it's going to help you to be nice to the earth in the process. How much is the Dolce Gusto Esperta going to cost you to add to your own at-home coffee shop? You're looking at about $149.99. Not too bad for a little machine that is going to help you quickly and easily make a cup of coffee. Now, of course, you'll have to factor in the cost of what you're going to pay per capsule, which is going to add into the overall amounts that you're going to spend on this machine over the lifetime that you have it. But that price point is not too bad for a machine that quickly and easily makes a cup of coffee. If you want to find out where you can purchase this machine, of course, visit the link in the description of our video where Aroma Cup will point you in exactly the right direction. What's my bottom line with the Dolce Gusto Esperta machine? It's a great little quick and easy to use machine to make a good cup of coffee. And if you like that set and brew ease, you're going to get that out of a machine like this. I think the only mark I would give against it is going to be the fact that the pods aren't recyclable. There's no brew your own option at the making of this video. So it's a little harder to be green about your coffee making with this machine, but I like its design. I think it's sleek It's easy to use, which is awesome. And the only thing I wish is that that little clicky scroll wheel did more, but that's okay. Again, I dig the machine. I think it's pretty cool, and for the price point, not too bad. So I hope you guys thought it was pretty cool and that this was informative and helpful for you. But of course, as always, if I missed anything, if you have questions or comments, get in touch with me here in the comments on this video, or visit us on aromacup.com, where we will be happy to talk coffee with you guys. As always, guys, I am Brian, coming to you from my virtual coffee shop, brought to you by aromacup.com. I want to thank you for joining me. I'm going to ask you to enjoy your cup, and I'll see you next time. Take care.